Hey, so this morning, well, today is, let's first establish, it's September 10th, 2025. And the big news in the stock market today was that the stock for Oracle took a huge jump. It was up at 1.40% or something like that. And it seemed incongruous with the news that came along with it. It was, I guess yesterday Oracle announced their earnings and they came in lower than expected by about 10%. But the CEO got up there and she gave all these grandiose promises of 10 times growth year over year for the next like 4 years. Now, I may be inaccurate about that. What I can say is that the numbers like for this year were somewhere in the numbers that were quoted today were 18 billion, whereas in 2030 they're looking at 171 billion. So about 10 times growth. And that was in their cloud and uh, their cloud services and some sort of a link to AI in that. And it just seemed like, okay, so you missed earnings this time around, and then you are promising 10 times growth 4 years down the road from now. And the stock went up 40% today. That's the whole thing. Was it just didn't feel right to me. It didn't seem like that was possible. It didn't seem that the numbers matched actually what were occurring in the business itself. In addition, if these numbers for their cloud services are going to go shooting up so high, shouldn't that mean that other cloud service providers like Microsoft and Amazon also would experience these gigantic bounces, the 10 times growth that they're predicting? And I'm just not seeing that. Microsoft was completely flat so far today, and Amazon was down. So the two biggest competitors, the two leaders in that market, aren't seeing this sort of a bounce that you're seeing out of Oracle today. And what it came down to is I kind of sat down and looked at the numbers and was like, okay, if you wanted to do what in the 80s they called a pump and dump, where you take a stock and you jack its price way up very suddenly by getting out there in the news media and having them embrace, whatever this idea is that you have to spread some news, and then to coincide with that, you go ahead and you take, like, let's say, I figured the numbers, if you had $12 billion, you could buy about 50 million shares of the stock at the open today, on a stock that's normally trades about 17 million shares a day. And a properly designed algorithm could probably make that stock, bounce up a pretty considerable amount, just putting the algorithm together to make sure that the supply and demand continues to drive higher and higher on the stock prices. And if you look at what happened with Oracle stock today, all of the rise, all of it was on the open. Within 30 minutes of the open, I mean, it pretty much stopped moving. If anything, it started drawing down as the day's gone on. It's about 2 o'clock right now, so we got 1 hour left in the trading day. But this really stunk of a pump and dump is what it came down to. Now, I'm not saying that's what it was. Maybe people are so starved for news in the stock market that any information they get will somehow, it drives them to it's something to talk about. But, overall, it just didn't make sense, the 40% rise. And I am going to be curious to see what happens in the last hour or so of the trading day today, to see if it just gives back all of those gains that it had earlier today. If I were the one that was trying to pull this off, I would probably go ahead and, pull out my original investment, which is going to be about 60% of whatever that 12 billion was. So we're looking at about $6 billion pulling that out. That's going to be about, I don't know. It's anyways, you pull that out, you put it in your pocket, you have a minimal investment, which you put in to pull this off, and you actually are sitting on a pretty considerable, you're going to walk away with $1 billion in one day. So I don't know. I'm probably wrong. I'm not an expert, and let me just make sure that I, tell you, I have no interest in any of the stocks that are involved in this, whether it be AWS, Microsoft, or Oracle. None of them. I have no vested interest there. So just my opinion of something that I found was kind of odd, and I figured I'd share it with you folks. Have a good